She wed a 57-year-old billionaire for a baby deal. His wedding night words shocked her. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, it is free, and it is the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories like this. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character. The rain streaked slowly down the tall glass windows of the downtown law office, turning the city lights outside into blurred ribbons of gold and white. Inside, the air was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that made every breath feel louder than it should. Maya Carter sat at the edge of a leather chair, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Her fingers trembled slightly, even though she tried to keep them still. On the polished table in front of her lay a thick contract folder, neatly aligned, the pages inside heavy with consequences. Across from her sat Victor Hale, 57 years old, billionaire, founder and chairman of one of the most powerful technology firms in the country. He did not look like the men Maya had imagined when she heard the word billionaire. There was no arrogance in his posture, no smug smile. He sat upright, composed, his salt and pepper hair perfectly groomed, his suit understated but unmistakably expensive. His expression was calm, almost distant, as if emotions were things he had learned to lock away long ago. This was not a meeting about love. This was not even a meeting about marriage. This was a deal. The lawyer cleared his throat and gently pushed the folder closer to Maya. The sound of paper sliding across wood felt unnaturally loud. 1 year, the lawyer said carefully. A legal marriage, complete discretion, full financial protection for you and your family. Maya swallowed. Her mind drifted, just for a second, to a small apartment across town, to a narrow hospital bed, to her mother, smiling bravely while pretending the pain was manageable, to medical bills stacked in a drawer she had stopped opening because the numbers scared her too much. She did not come here because she wanted luxury. She came here because she was running out of time. Victor finally spoke. His voice was low, steady, and controlled. This arrangement is not about romance, he said. It is about clarity. We both know exactly what we are agreeing to. Maya looked up at him, her eyes searching his face, trying to find something human behind the billionaire calm. She found it, briefly, in the faint tension around his eyes. A man who had learned to survive by never needing anyone. And the baby? She asked quietly. Victor did not hesitate. My legacy requires an heir, he said. Nothing more, nothing less. The words should have sounded cold, and yet there was something honest about them. No false promises, no illusions. The lawyer placed a silver fountain pen on the table. It gleamed under the office lights, pristine and heavy, like a final test. Maya stared at it. She thought about the $10 pharmacy receipt folded in her wallet, the one she had kept from the night she realized she could not afford both groceries and medicine. She thought about how pride did not pay hospital bills, how love did not stop eviction notices. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. And the rules? She asked. Victor met her gaze. Separate bedrooms, he said. Public appearances only when necessary. No emotional expectations. No physical intimacy unless you explicitly choose it. This marriage exists on paper and in public. Nowhere else. No illusions. No lies. Maya took a slow breath. This was not a dream wedding. This was survival. She reached for the pen. As her fingers closed around the cool metal, she had no idea that the most shocking moment of this marriage would not come today. But on the wedding night, when Victor Hale would say something that would change everything she thought she understood about this deal. Part 2. Why she says yes. The decision followed Maya home like a shadow she could not outrun. That night, she stood in the narrow kitchen of her apartment, the hum of the old refrigerator filling the silence. The place smelled faintly of instant noodles and disinfectant. Everything about it reminded her how fragile her life had become. One missed paycheck, one unexpected bill, one phone call from the hospital. Her phone buzzed on the counter. The hospital number. Maya answered before the second ring finished. Yes, this is Maya, she said, already bracing herself. The nurse's voice was gentle but firm. Her mother's treatment plan had changed. The medication dosage needed to increase. The cost would increase with it. Insurance would cover some, but not all. Maya closed her eyes as numbers spilled through the call. Numbers she had already memorized. Numbers she already knew she could not beat. When the call ended, she slid down against the cabinet and sat on the cold floor. For a moment, she let herself feel it. The fear, the anger, the quiet shame of being the daughter who could not fix everything. She pulled her wallet from her bag. Inside was the pharmacy receipt. $10.68. The last time she had stood at the counter, choosing between pain medication and food. She had folded that receipt carefully and kept it, not because it mattered financially, but because it reminded her why she kept going. The next morning, Maya visited the hospital before work. Her mother looked smaller than usual in the white bed, her hair thinner, her smile still stubbornly warm. "You look tired," her mother said softly. "I am fine," Maya replied, sitting beside her and taking her hand. Her mother squeezed her fingers. "You do not have to carry everything alone, you know." Maya smiled, but she did not answer. How could she explain that carrying everything alone was the only option left? Outside the room, Maya stopped when she overheard two nurses whispering. "Another patient delayed treatment again," one said quietly. "Could not afford the copay." Maya's chest tightened. Delayed treatment was not an option. Not for her mother. Not when time was already running out. That afternoon, Maya worked a double shift. She smiled at customers. She counted tips. She calculated rent in her head while pouring coffee. No matter how many hours she worked, the math never changed. By the time she returned home, her phone buzzed again. A message from the lawyer. "We will need your answer by tomorrow morning." Maya sat on her bed, staring at the wall. She imagined saying no, imagined walking away with her dignity intact. Imagined telling her mother they would figure something else out. But imagination did not pay medical bills. She thought about Victor Hale, about the way he had looked at her, not as a woman to be desired, but as a partner in a transaction. Strangely, that honesty felt safer than false hope. This marriage was not a fairy tale. It was not love. It was leverage. And for the first time in weeks, Maya saw a path where her mother could live. That night, she opened her email and typed a single sentence. "I accept the terms." She pressed send. As the message disappeared, Maya did not feel relief. She felt resolve. She was not selling her heart. She was buying time. And she had no idea how much that choice was about to cost her emotionally. The signing happened 2 days later. Not in a church. Not in a grand hall. But in Victor Hale's glass mansion overlooking the river, where everything was quiet, controlled, and deliberately impersonal. Maya arrived just after noon. The house was larger than anything she had ever stepped into, but it did not feel warm. The floors were polished stone. The walls were white and bare, interrupted only by abstract art that looked expensive and distant, like emotions translated into shapes and then stripped of meaning. Victor was already waiting in the living room. He stood near the window, hands behind his back, staring out at the water below. When he turned, his expression was composed, professional. If this were not a wedding arrangement, it could have been a board meeting. "You came early," he said. "I did not want to be late," Maya replied. He nodded once, as if punctuality mattered more than feelings. A second folder lay on the table, thinner than the first. This one was labeled simply, "Terms." They sat across from each other again, the same distance, the same quiet tension. Victor opened the folder. "There will be boundaries," he said. "They protect both of us." He spoke calmly, like a man listing company policies. "Separate bedrooms," he continued. "We will appear together when required, nothing more. No interference in each other's personal lives. No expectations beyond what is written." Maya listened carefully. Each rule felt like a line drawn in stone. "And the baby?" she asked. Victor met her eyes. "Medical planning only. No physical obligation, no pressure." Something loosened slightly in her chest. She had not realized how tightly she had been holding her breath. "There is one more rule," Victor said. He slid a single page toward her. "If at any point you feel this arrangement is harming you, you may leave. No penalties, no retaliation." Maya looked up, surprised. "You would allow that?" "Yes," he said simply. Control should never feel like a cage. For the first time, she saw it. Not kindness exactly, but principle. Victor Hale did not believe in chaos. He believed in structure, in consent, in rules that prevented damage. The lawyer returned briefly to witness the signatures. Maya picked up the silver fountain pen again, the same weight, the same finality. As she signed, Victor watched silently. When it was done, he stood and gestured down the hallway. "Your room is on the east wing," he said. "Mine is on the west. You will not be disturbed." That night, the house remained quiet. Maya unpacked slowly, placing her few belongings into drawers that were far too large for them. She sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the unfamiliar silence of wealth. Across the house, Victor stood alone in his bedroom. He loosened his tie, then stopped. His eyes drifted to a locked door at the far end of the room. He did not open it. He never did. Down the hall, Maya lay awake, staring at the ceiling. This was not marriage as the world understood it. This was an agreement between two people who did not want to need anyone. And yet, as the house settled into stillness, both of them felt the same unsettling truth. The rules were clear. The contract was firm. But something about living under the same roof made those boundaries feel far more fragile than either of them wanted to admit. The transformation began quietly. No cameras. No announcements. No dramatic reveals. Just a series of mornings where Maya woke up in a house that did not feel like hers, learning how to exist in a world that had never been built for someone like her. A stylist arrived first. She was polite, efficient, and spoke in neutral tones as she examined Maya from head to toe. Measurements were taken, fabrics were discussed. Colors were chosen based on lighting and public perception, not preference. "This one photographs well," the stylist said, holding up a tailored dress. Maya nodded, even though she had never once thought about how clothing might change how people listened to her. Then came the etiquette coach. He corrected the way she held a wine glass. He taught her how to sit through a 3-hour dinner without touching her phone, how to smile without appearing eager, how to pause before answering questions so her words carried weight. "Silence," he told her gently, "is a form of confidence." Victor observed most of this from a distance. He did not interfere. He did not comment. He simply watched as Maya absorbed everything, making mistakes without complaint, asking questions without defensiveness. At dinner, she struggled at first. The table was long, too long. Plates arrived with food she could not pronounce. She waited to see which fork to use, then chose carefully, hoping no one noticed. Victor did. "You do not need to impress anyone here," he said quietly once, when she hesitated too long. "I know," Maya replied, "but I do not want to embarrass you." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, perhaps. Board dinners followed. Then charity luncheons. Then quiet appearances where Maya stood beside Victor as if she had always belonged there. She learned quickly. But what stood out most to her was not the wealth. It was the loneliness. Victor ate most meals alone. Even when she sat across from him, the distance felt deliberate, measured. He worked late into the night, often returning to his office after dinner, the soft glow under the door lasting until dawn. The house echoed. One evening, Maya wandered into a hallway she had not explored before. At the far end was a single door, different from the others, darker and dwelt. She stopped in front of it, unsure why her chest felt tight. Victor's voice came from behind her. "That room is private," he said. "I am sorry," Maya replied quickly, stepping back. "I was just looking for the study." He nodded. "It is fine." But he did not explain the door. Over the weeks, Maya noticed small things. Victor never spoke about his past. He never mentioned family. He never asked about love. And yet, he was careful with her in ways that felt intentional. He made sure her mother's treatments were handled discreetly. He never reminded Maya of the cost. He adjusted schedules so she could visit the hospital without question. This was not affection. It was responsibility. One night, after a long public event, Maya removed her heels in the car and sighed softly. "These shoes are a form of torture," she muttered. Victor glanced at her, then surprised her with the faintest hint of a smile. "They are," he said. "You get used to pretending they are not." She laughed before she could stop herself. The sound lingered longer than either of them expected. Later that night, alone in her room, Maya stared at her reflection. The woman looking back wore elegance easily now, but beneath it, she was still the same person who counted tips and saved receipts. She understood something then. This world had rules just like hers did. Different currency, same pressure. Victor Hale was not cold because he lacked feeling. He was controlled because losing control once had likely cost him everything. As Maya turned off the light, she realized something unsettling. She had entered his world as part of a deal. But step by step, she was beginning to see the man behind the structure. And that made the contract feel far less simple than it had on paper. The gala was held at the Metropolitan Riverfront Hall, a place Maya had only ever seen from the outside. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen light above the crowd. Men in tailored suits and women in silk gowns moved through the room with practiced ease, their conversations soft but sharp, measured in status and influence. Every laugh felt deliberate. Every glance felt evaluated. Maya stood beside Victor at the entrance, her hand resting lightly on his arm, exactly as she had been taught. She reminded herself to breathe. This was not a date. This was a performance. As they moved through the room, heads turned, whispers followed. That must be her. In backed a market by the racted of. She is younger than I expected. Interesting choice. Maya kept her posture steady, her expression calm. She had learned how to hold herself now, how to listen without reacting, how to let silence speak for her. They stopped near a group of board members and their spouses. Introductions were made, polite smiles exchanged. Then one of the women, impeccably dressed and casually cruel, looked Maya up and down. "You are very grounded," she said, her smile thin. "What was it you did before this?" The question was not curiosity. It was a test. Maya felt the familiar heat rise in her chest, the instinct to shrink, to apologize for existing in a space that did not expect her. She glanced at Victor. He said nothing. He did not step in. He did not rescue her. He waited. So Maya answered. "I work 2 jobs," she said evenly. "One paid the bills. The other paid for my mother's medical care." The circle went quiet. The woman blinked, clearly not expecting honesty. "That must have been difficult," she replied, her tone shifting. "It was," Maya said. "But it taught me how to listen, how to work without being seen, and how to recognize value that does not announce itself." A pause. Then Victor spoke. "Those qualities are rarer than most fortunes in this room," he said calmly, "and far more useful." The silence deepened. Several people looked away. The woman flushed slightly and forced a smile before excusing herself. As they moved on, Maya's pulse hammered in her ears. "You did not have to say that," she said quietly once they were alone near the balcony. Victor looked at her. "Yes," he replied. "I did." For the rest of the evening, something shifted. People spoke to Maya differently. Not warmly, but with respect. They asked her questions and actually listened to the answers. They stopped seeing her as decoration and began seeing her as presence. From across the room, Victor watched her. He noticed how she spoke with the waitstaff, thanking them by name, how she deflected compliments without false humility, how she stood her ground without raising her voice. This was not training. This was character. Later, as the night wound down, they stepped outside onto the balcony overlooking the river. The city lights reflected on the water below, steady and endless. Maya exhaled. "I think I passed," she said softly. Victor glanced at her. "You were never being tested." She frowned. "Then what was tonight?" "For them," he said, "it was a test. For me, it was confirmation." "Of what?" "That I did not make a mistake." The words landed heavier than he seemed to realize. They stood there in silence, the noise of the gala muffled behind them. Maya felt it then. Not romance, not attraction. Trust. And somewhere deep inside, Victor felt something unfamiliar as well. Pride. Not in his deal. Not in the arrangement. But in the woman standing beside him, holding her ground in a world designed to push her out. The contract had brought them together. But tonight proved something neither of them had planned for. Maya was not pretending anymore, and Victor Hale was beginning to see her not as part of an agreement, but as an equal presence he did not want to lose. The wedding itself was quiet. No guests, no music, no flowers filling the air with false romance. Just signatures, witnesses, and a brief exchange of vows spoken without trembling voices or dramatic pauses. It was efficient, clean, almost clinical. By nightfall, Maya found herself standing in the master bedroom of Victor Hale's mansion, the weight of the day finally settling into her shoulders. The room was vast. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, its lights stretching endlessly into the dark. A king-sized bed sat at the center, perfectly made, untouched. Everything looked prepared for an intimacy that did not yet exist. Maya set her small overnight bag near the chair and took a slow breath. This was the part she had prepared herself for. Not physically, emotionally. She reminded herself of the rules: medical planning, consent, no obligations. Still, her heart beat faster than she expected when the door opened behind her. Victor stepped inside. He had removed his jacket and loosened his tie, but he still looked controlled, deliberate, a man who never allowed himself to be careless, even on his wedding night. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched. Maya broke it first. "If you would like me to leave," she said carefully, "I can sleep in the east wing." Victor stopped near the foot of the bed. "No," he replied. "This is your room as much as it is mine." She nodded, unsure what that meant. He took another step forward, then stopped again, as if crossing an invisible line. "Maya," he said quietly. She looked up. What he said next was not what she expected. "I will not touch you," he said. "Not tonight. Not ever. Unless you choose me freely." The words stunned her. She blinked. "Victor, the contract says—" "The contract does not matter here," he interrupted, his voice calm but firm. "Not tonight." He turned slightly, giving her space. "I know what it is like," he continued, "to be valued only for what you can produce. An heir, a signature, an image." Maya felt her chest tighten. "My first wife," Victor said after a pause, "died during childbirth." The words hung in the air, heavy and irreversible. "I loved her," he went on, "and I watched her become a symbol instead of a person, a vessel for legacy. I will not repeat that mistake. Not with you." Maya could not speak. Victor took a step back, increasing the distance between them. "This marriage began as a solution," he said, "but I refuse to let it become a violation." He gestured toward the couch near the window. "I will sleep there." "Thanks." Before she could respond, he removed his watch, placed it carefully on the table, and turned away. The sound of him settling onto the couch was soft, final. Maya stood alone beside the bed, her hands trembling. She had prepared herself for obligation, for discomfort, for emotional emptiness. She had not prepared herself for restraint, for respect, for a man powerful enough to take whatever the contract allowed, choosing instead to give her control. She sat slowly on the edge of the bed, staring at the city lights outside. Across the room, Victor lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Neither of them slept for a long time. That night, something fundamental shifted. The marriage was still fake. The contract still existed, but for the first time, Maya understood the truth. Victor Hale was not afraid of intimacy. He was afraid of causing harm. And that realization made the arrangement far more dangerous to both of them than either had anticipated. The shift did not happen all at once. It began with small things. Emails Victor stopped answering. Meetings that suddenly excluded him. Calendar changes made without his approval. Maya noticed first, because she was watching him more closely now. Not as a wife, not as a contract partner, but as a human being under pressure. One afternoon, while Victor was in a closed board call, Maya wandered into the study to return a file she had borrowed. The room was immaculate, as always, orderly, controlled, too controlled. A tablet on the desk lit up with a notification before she could look away. Board update. Mandatory attendance requested. Curious, she glanced at the screen, and then her stomach dropped. The message was not addressed to Victor alone. It was copied to legal counsel, succession advisors, and two names Maya recognized from the gala. People who smiled politely while measuring power like currency. The subject line read, "Succession Stability Review." Maya did not need business training to understand what that meant. Later that night, Victor came home later than usual. His tie was loosened. His shoulders were tense in a way she had never seen before. He poured himself a glass of water, then another, without sitting down. "They are preparing a vote," he said quietly, as if saying it out loud made it more real. "A vote for what?" Maya asked. "To reduce my authority," he replied, under the guise of concern. "Concern about what?" Victor hesitated. "My emotional judgment," he said. "My age. My personal life." Detected. Maya felt cold. "They are using the marriage," she said. "Yes," Victor replied. "And the potential heir." She understood then. The contract was never just protection. It was leverage. The board wanted an heir not to secure Victor's legacy, but to secure their control. Once succession was defined, Victor would become replaceable, manageable, a symbol instead of a decision-maker. "They plan to push you out," Maya said slowly. "After." Victor nodded. Maya thought of the contract folder, of the clauses she had trusted, of the illusion of safety written in clean legal language. She felt something else rise in her chest. Anger. Not at Victor. At the system. At the way power dressed. Exploitation in professionalism. The next day it became public. An article appeared online, vague but sharp. Speculation about Victor Hale's stability. Questions about his sudden marriage to a much younger woman. Subtle suggestions that the arrangement was transactional. Maya read the comments. She knew what she was doing. Gold digger. Bought wife. The words cut deeper than she expected. That night, she confronted Victor. "Why did you not tell me this was a possibility?" she asked. He looked exhausted. "Because I did not want you to feel trapped," he said, "and because I believed I could manage it." "But you cannot," Maya said. "Not alone." Victor looked at her carefully. "This was never your burden." "It became my burden the moment they used me as a tool," she replied. Silence settled between them. For the first time since the wedding, tension rose sharply. "You can leave," Victor said. "The contract allows it." Maya laughed bitterly. "And let them win? That would protect you," he said. Maya shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "That would confirm everything they believe. That I was disposable." Victor studied her, conflicted. "This fight will cost you," he warned. Maya stepped closer. "I did not marry you for power," she said, "but I will not stand by while they take yours." In that moment, something dangerous happened. The contract stopped being a shield. It became a battlefield. And both of them realized the truth. The greatest threat to their fake marriage was not emotion. It was the system that had never intended to let either of them walk away with dignity. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 sharp. By 8:30, the executive floor was already buzzing. Assistants moved quickly through glass corridors. Legal teams whispered in corners. Everything felt rehearsed, as if the outcome had already been decided. Victor sat at the head of the long conference table, his expression unreadable. Maya sat beside him. Not behind. Not hidden. Beside. Several board members glanced at her, surprised. Others avoided her eyes altogether. The chairman cleared his throat. "Thank you for attending on short notice," he began. "This is a matter of stability, of future planning. Victor folded his hands calmly. "Then speak plainly." The chairman nodded and gestured to the legal counsel. The lawyer stood. "Given recent developments," he said, "including concerns about personal decision-making and succession clarity, the board proposes an adjustment to executive authority once an heir is secured." 5 seconds. Maya felt Victor tense beside her. So this was it. Say it without saying it. They were waiting for Victor to comply, to nod, to accept a graceful demotion in exchange for legacy. Victor did not speak. Instead, Maya stood. The room froze. Several people shifted uncomfortably. "I would like to speak," she said. The chairman frowned. "Mrs. Hale, this is a board matter." "It is also a matter that involves my name," Maya replied evenly, "and my body." Silence dropped like a weight. Maya looked around the table. "You speak about stability," she continued. "But what you are proposing is control. You are not protecting this company. You are protecting yourselves." One board member scoffed. "With all due respect, you agreed to this arrangement." "Yes," Maya said. "I agreed to a marriage contract. not to being used as leverage to strip a man of his life's work. She turned to Victor. "May I?" He nodded once. Maya reached into her bag and placed the contract folder on the table. Then, without hesitation, she opened it and tore it in half. Gasps filled the room. "This contract no longer exists," Maya said. "There will be no air produced for your convenience. No timeline, no bargaining chip." Victor stood. "I support her decision," he said calmly. "Effective immediately." The chairman slammed his hand on the table. "You cannot do this." "I can," Victor replied. "And I just did. Wire, like, with a, Noah." He looked around the room, his voice steady. "You attempted to turn my personal life into a mechanism of control. I will not allow it." Maya felt something unexpected then. Relief. Not because the fight was over, but because the choice was real. Later that night, the mansion felt different. Quieter, lighter. Victor stood in the living room, staring at the remains of the torn contract on the table. "You did not have to do that," he said softly. "Yes," Maya replied. "I did. There. 8. He turned to her. "You may walk away now," he said, "with everything promised. No consequences." Maya shook her head. "I am not staying because of a deal," she said. "I am staying because I choose to." Victor studied her face, searching for hesitation. There was none. Slowly, deliberately, he reached for the remaining pages of the contract and tore them again. The sound was quiet, final. "No more negotiations," he said. They stood there, two people who had finally stepped beyond the safety of rules. The marriage was no longer fake, not because of love yet, but because, for the first time, both of them were free to walk away, and neither of them did. The weeks that followed were quieter than Maya expected. No headlines screamed scandal. No dramatic collapse shook the company. The board retreated, exposed but careful. Power shifted back into Victor's hands, not through force, but through clarity. He restructured quietly, removed those who had tried to trade his life for control, and restored authority without spectacle. Justice did not arrive loudly. It arrived clean. Maya watched all of this from a distance. She returned to her routine, visiting the hospital, sitting beside her mother's bed, holding her hand during treatments that no longer came with whispered fear about money. The bills were handled. The care was consistent. One afternoon, her mother looked at her closely. "You are different," she said softly. Maya smiled. "I feel different." That evening, when Maya returned to the mansion, Victor was waiting. Not in a suit, not behind a desk. He stood in the hallway near the locked door she had noticed weeks ago. "It is time," he said quietly. He unlocked it. Inside was a nursery. Not new, not staged, preserved. A small crib, shelves with untouched books. A single framed photograph on the wall of a younger Victor standing beside a woman with warm eyes and a gentle smile. "My wife," Victor said. She wanted this room filled with laughter. Maya felt tears rise, uninvited. "I kept it locked because I was afraid," he continued. "Afraid that opening it meant admitting I had survived when she did not." Maya stepped closer. "You did survive," she said, "and you are still choosing how to live." Victor turned to her. "This marriage began as a transaction," he said. "But somewhere along the way, you became my partner. Not on paper, in truth." He reached into his pocket and held out something small. Not the original ring. A simple band. "I am not asking you to stay because you owe me anything," he said. "I am asking because I love you, and because I want a life that is chosen, not negotiated." Maya looked at him. At the man who had given her power when he could have taken it. At the man who had stepped back so she could step forward. She nodded. "Yes," she said. "This time, yes." Their wedding, the real one, happened months later. Small, intimate, no contracts, no witnesses counting value. Just two people standing in the light, choosing each other freely. As they held hands, Maya understood the truth that had been hidden from the beginning. The marriage did not save her because he was a billionaire. It worked because he knew when to let go of control, and Victor Hale learned something he had never written into any contract. Love begins when no one is negotiating anymore.